everyone, this is John with Gun.Deals, and today we are talking about the CVLIFE Wildhawk enclosed pistol red dot, which is essentially a budget Holosun EPS, which is a pretty popular little concealed carry style red dot, but here for a very attractive sub $200 price tag. Before we get into that, while you're here, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as that is all free and it does help us out quite a bit. Then go ahead and comment your favorite Holosun ripoff in the comments down below. Full disclosure, CVLIFE did send this product out for the Gun.Deals channel to review, so keep that in mind going forward. Now, getting into exactly what this optic is, it is essentially a RMS or RMSc style footprint, so you can put it on some of your smaller guns, and it also comes with adapter plates for both the Glock MOS system and a RMR footprint slide as well. So most guns out there, this should fit, given that it's either RMR, MOS, or RMSc. In terms of the dot itself, this is a multi-reticle system, very similar to what you'll find in Holosun or similar offerings. You have a 2 MOA center dot and a outside 32 MOA outer circle, which outside of shotgun applications or very specific things with rifles, I leave off all of the time, especially when it's mounted to a pistol. Talking about construction, we have a fully 70-75 body, which is great for a enclosed emitter pistol dot, especially one of these smaller ones. Usually that'll make it quite tough in terms of the material selection. We have standard windage and elevation turrets in 1-ish MOA increments. On the left-hand side of the body, we have a plus and a minus button for selecting our brightness level and selecting the reticle and modes, which we'll talk about in just a minute. On the right-hand side of the body, we have our battery tray for our 1632, which should run us a year or more of battery combined with the auto on, auto off on the CVLIFE Wildhawk. One other possible selling point for some of you out there is the fact that this also has a light sensor on the top of the body for adjusting the reticle to ambient lighting. Now, if you've heard me talk about auto-adjusting reticles before, not my personal favorite, as I like to just set and forget and deal with it if it's a little too bright. However, with the top light sensor, if you cover it up or if there's just not very much ambient light, when you're in the auto mode, it will automatically dim. And if it's very bright, like it is right now with the big lights on, it will bloom out to a appropriate level. It seems to work relatively quickly, less than a second between adjusting. The main issue with that is if you're shooting from a dark area into a bright area, then it's not going to adjust for where you're shooting, only where you currently are, and of course vice versa. If you like the idea of having auto brightness adjustment, you can leave it on. However, if you want to disable it like me, you simply hold the plus and minus button for 1 second, the reticle will flash, and then it will go into manual mode where you can just select the brightness and it will stay at that level. To cycle through the reticle options themselves, you just hold down the plus button and it will give you either the 2 MOA dot with 32 MOA outer circle, or just the circle. For some reason, I'm sure somebody can think of an application out there in the comment section. Also of note, in the back, we do have a notch for a rear iron sight, which depending on the height of your front sight and the deck height of your optics mounting system, might actually line up on the Canik Rival S, which was certainly not designed for this type of red dot. Something a little bit bigger would be a little bit more apropos. However, it does kind of line up, giving you that emergency sighting system. Moving on to actually looking through the optic itself, how is the glass? How does the dot resolve? Is there any distortion, glare, anything else like that? As far as the glass itself is concerned, there is a noticeable blue notch filter, which, you know, some people might have a preference for a more clear image. This does have a more noticeable blue notch filter, probably to try to cut down on some glare and preserve that battery life by making that reticle show up a little bit brighter, giving it some contrast. On top of that, the dot itself actually looks very clean for a 2 MOA dot. I don't mind that at all. I didn't use the 32 MOA outer circle all that much, but it looks par for the course. The one thing that I will say is because this is a EPS carry style of red dot, it is a smaller window, so putting all that stuff in your window, the 2 MOA dot plus 32 MOA outer circle, covers up quite a bit, so I prefer just the crisp 2 MOA dot. If I didn't mention it already, you have 8 daylight settings, 2 night vision settings. I did, for fun, try the night vision settings, though the glass is a little too dark and the dot is a little too bright to be truly appropriate for night vision use, whereas the Holosun EPS and EPS carry are actually quite good at night vision performance. One thing that I definitely did notice, however, is that like some of these other cheaper red dots, you will notice more glare in some situations. For instance, if you have some sort of front downward light in the lens itself, even with just the 2 MOA dot on, you can kind of see the whole emitter housing reflected in there. It wasn't that distracting, and it only happened when there was a direct downward light source like the sun in front of it essentially, but it was noticeable in some situations, so keep that in mind. When I was shooting with it, other than the glare in certain situations, I thought the glass looks fine, the dot looks quite good. Once you get used to the smaller window, because I'm very used to shooting large windowed optics at this point, I think it performs just fine. It's held up well, it's held zero, so I don't have any issues with that from a design or a construction standpoint. Again, it wouldn't be my preference to use for something like competition, simply because you want something with a little bit bigger window that's a little bit more forgiving in terms of where that dot actually shows up. But if your index is really good, it doesn't really matter all that much. As far as something that you might trust your life with as a concealed carry type optic, something that you're going to protect yourself, your family with, I never really recommend chasing the lowest dollar amount possible to protect your life, the life of your loved ones, and the life of your Funko Pops. But of course, the reality is that this is almost certainly going to be going on your second, third, or fourth handgun, because you don't want to spend $350 a pop for the real thing. So as a second backup dot, a plinking dot going on a gun you don't shoot all that often, something that gets the job done and doesn't break the bank, well, I think it's perfectly acceptable for that sort of role. So with all that out of the way, let me know what you guys think of the CV Wildhawk enclosed auto-adjusting pistol dot in the comments down below. And with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.